You are watching the World 24/7 on the NDTV network. I'm Parmeshwar Bawa. Let's begin with the top stories you need to know. The armies of India and China have completed 80 to 90% disengagement at Depsang and Demchok in Eastern Ladakh. The process includes removal of all types of infrastructure and pulling back of troops by both sides, as per our sources. Israeli lawmakers have passed legislation that will threaten the work of the main UN agency providing aid to people in Gaza by barring it from operating on Israeli soil. The law, which does not immediately go into effect, signals a new low for a long troubled relationship between Israel and the United Nations. A comedian at a Donald Trump rally called Puerto Rico a floating island of garbage, sparking fury from Republicans and Democrats and accusations of racism. The furor came as one of the world's top Latin celebrities, Puerto Rican rapper Bad Bunny, endorsed Kamala Harris for president. The United States will not impose new limits on Ukraine's use of American weapons if North Korea joins Russia's war, as NATO said North Korean military units had been deployed to the Kursk region in Russia. NASA astronaut Sunita Williams, who has been in space for nearly 5 months, extended her warmest wishes for Diwali to those celebrating the festival in the United States and around the globe. Our big focus: the armies of India and China have completed 80 to 90% disengagement at Depsang and Demchok in Eastern Ladakh, and the process includes removal of all types of infrastructure and pulling back of troops by both sides, as per our sources. The entire process is expected to be completed today itself, and earlier the Chinese Foreign Ministry had said that the frontier troops of both India and China are engaged in relevant work in accordance with the agreement reached between the two nations on issues concerning the border. In fact, addressing a press briefing, the Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson Lin Jian stated that the work is underway smoothly. The other big story we're tracking: Israel's parliament has voted to ban the UN aid agency for Palestinian refugees, and the move, which is expected to take effect within 2 to 3 months, is expected to severely restrict the UNRWA from operating in Palestinian territories and has drawn criticism from global leaders who say it could stifle much-needed aid distribution. Israel has long alleged that UNRWA has ties to Hamas, and the UN fired 9 employees earlier this year who may have been involved in the October 7 attack on Israel. But the UNRWA is also largely considered Gaza's main lifeline for aid, and hundreds of the organization's workers have been killed by Israeli strikes in the enclave, making it the deadliest conflict for UN employees. Well, let's turn our attention now to the United States. Well, for nearly a decade, it's fair to say Trump has endured, if not thrived, on the lack of a filter that defines his political brand, leaving Democrats with no clear path to exploit it in the closing stretch of the race. But a comedian at a Trump rally at Madison Square Garden in New York City, he called Puerto Rico a floating island of garbage, and it has sparked fury from Republicans and Democrats and accusations of racism. The comic Tony Hinchcliffe on your screens was among the speakers at the Madison Square Garden in New York on Sunday, and he also made a series of jokes that leaned on racist stereotypes. A Trump advisor distanced the former president from the Puerto Rico joke, which was also denounced by Trump's Democratic rival Kamala Harris. Harris herself, by the way, was the target of another Trump warm-up speaker who also sparked controversy, but the furor came as one of the world's top Latin celebrities, rapper Bad Bunny, endorsed Kamala Harris for president. In fact, this comedian also at this rally drew on racist tropes about black people and watermelons, which prompted groans from the audience, and he called Palestinians rock throwers, while in the same sentence suggested Jews would not spend money invoking an anti-Semitic trope. The comedian later defended his material on X, saying these people have no sense of humor. But Democratic lawmaker Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and Democratic vice presidential candidate Tim Walz have also hit out at these racist comments. Well, for further clarity, we have with us political analyst Jake Novak joining us on NDTV. Thanks so much, as always, Mr. Novak, for making time for us. Now, many of these remarks appear to be read from teleprompters. which clearly indicated that they had been approved by someone within the events planning committee. But the fact that the US is so close to election day, sir, and with a high-profile New York backdrop, has this rally prompted a new wave of concern from Republicans?
No, I think actually it's been a very positive reaction to it. This comedian, had those comments been made by an elected Republican, by someone who was really going to be in Trump's administration, as opposed to a guy who's known as an insult comedian, I think they would have more traction. Now, I would agree with those who say, why did they bring this guy into the program in the first place? I agree with that question. I don't really think he really belonged there, not because he said so many things that were controversial, just because what's the point of having an insult comedian at a rally where people are trying to celebrate a candidate? So I think that is a good criticism. But you're right, it's so close to the election. I don't think that we're at a point where people's minds are going to be changed about whom they're going to vote for. The only thing that people need to decide now is whether or not they're actually going to go to vote. They're not going to change their mind about whom they're going to vote for, especially if it's just a comedian who isn't even going to work in the administration. If Donald Trump had said these things, if J.D. Vance had said these things, we'd be having a different conversation.
Right, but allies have expressed worry that the remarks could have political repercussions, especially given Puerto Rico, the citizens have been growing influence in battleground states, which have been highlighted time and again. But, sir, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez has called this a hate rally. Do you endorse that view?
No, and I think that they've been attacking this rally even before it started. And, you know, it's actually quite telling. I think everyone should understand that the ratcheting up of attacks on the Republicans and this particular rally is actually not about trying to change people's minds before the election. It's too late for that. What they're trying to do now is sow the seeds, plant the seeds for post-election violence. They're trying to get people so riled up that they will perhaps angrily protest, do maybe even some types of violence. And this is the way they're trying to start this anger. I don't think it's going to work as well as it did in 2020 when we had the Black Lives Matter riots, and because there's no COVID for people to be confused by the real messaging. But believe it or not, I really think the Democrats know that they've lost this election, even though we're 7 days out. I think they know that already. And so now they're trying a different plot, a different strategy, which is try to increase the anger over the result they know is coming.
But, you know, interesting to note the Trump campaign, which is generally unapologetic about such statements, had swiftly released a statement on Sunday night, distancing itself from Mr. Hinchcliffe's remarks. What do you have to say about this move?
Well, you know, again, that's where I agree with the questioning. I mean, it's possible that there were some larger planners, some new planners for this rally that included the old group, because the Trump rallies that have been going across the country, you know, he does 2-3 rallies a day. So and they've never had this kind of an issue at any one of these other rallies. So it's clear there were some other people involved in planning out the program for this rally. So it might have been pretty easy for them to try to distance themselves from this, because I think this probably had something to do with people who are not usually on the campaign trail. But again, I go back to my original statement, which is, why are you inviting a comedian like this in the first place? He's an insult comedian. He's a controversial comedian. This is what he does. This is his act all over the country. He probably shouldn't be at a political rally for either party. All you're doing is asking for trouble.
Well, if Tony Hinchcliffe costs Trump the election, many are arguing that it will be the first funny thing he's ever done. But thank you so much, Mr. Novak, for joining us. Do stay on with us for the next update as well. But before that, I'd like to inform our viewers, the Philadelphia District Attorney's Office has filed a lawsuit seeking to stop Elon Musk's Political Action Committee from awarding $1 million to registered voters in swing states. The lawsuit by the District Attorney Larry Krasner accuses the tech billionaire and his America PAC group of attempting to influence voters in the US presidential election with hopes of winning a cash prize. But Pennsylvania is one of the key swing states where the presidential election between Trump and Harris will be decided, and the election is on a knife edge in the national polls and also in the crucial battleground states, of which some experts see Pennsylvania as the most important. In other news now, the US will not impose new limits on Ukraine's use of American weapons if North Korea joins Russia's war. This is what the Pentagon has said. As NATO said, North Korean military units had been deployed to the Kursk region in Russia. The North Korea deployment is fanning Western concerns that the 2.5-year conflict in Ukraine could widen even as the tension shifts to the Middle East. But here's what the NATO Secretary General had to say.
Today, I can confirm that North Korean troops have been sent to Russia and that North Korean military units have been deployed to the Kursk region. The deployment of North Korean troops represents, one, a significant escalation in the DPRK's ongoing involvement in Russia's illegal war. Two, yet another breach of UN Security Council resolutions. And three, a dangerous expansion of Russia's war. NATO calls on Russia and the DPRK to cease these actions immediately.
Mr. Novak's with us from New York for a quick comment on this matter as well. Sir, how do you assess the implications of the deepening military cooperation between Russia and North Korea for security dynamics, especially in the Indo-Pacific and Euro-Atlantic regions? What are the specific threats? What do they say about this partnership, and how should international actors actually respond to this latest move?
Well, this just goes to show this is probably the biggest example of the failure yet that we've seen for any attempt by the Western countries or other countries in the world to try to stop this conflict. We're not doing a very good job of it. Now, I can tell you why the United States has failed at this, because the Biden administration, the Biden-Harris administration, has invested many, many years in a massive amount of hatred and demonization of Vladimir Putin. Now, he deserves a lot of it. Don't get me wrong. He deserves a lot of it. But we haven't been honest with the American people. They haven't been honest with the American people about what it's going to cost us and where the escalations like this could go unless we put aside a little bit of that hatred and try to work more on a peaceful solution. We haven't heard the word peace from Joe Biden. We haven't heard the word peace from Kamala Harris when it comes to this. And I don't think that they were prepared for this. I think everyone was surprised by this importation of North Korean troops into the region. Now, again, that doesn't mean we have to give in to every one of Vladimir Putin's demands, but it does show that we have failed not only to stop this escalation, but to level with the American people and with the people of the rest of the world. What is at stake here? This is really like studying World War I in college again. We find out that these things just keep escalating and escalating. There's no real coordinated effort for peace. And there's got to be a way to get some kind of an agreement here without capitulating to every one of Vladimir Putin's demands, because he's clearly not willing to stop for any reason whatsoever unless he gets some certain modicum of respect out of this whole deal. This is a really scary development. There's no denying that.
In fact, many highlight that there has actually been no real coordination as far as peace efforts are concerned. Several leaders in the West assert that North Korean soldiers are deployed to support Russia's war of aggression and that it is a grave escalation, as you have highlighted. But, Mr. Novak, the US also says it will not impose new limits on Ukraine's use of American weapons if North Korea joins Russia's war. What implications can we anticipate in this scenario?
Well, you know, and Vladimir Putin has said that if those weapons are, if the Ukrainians can use all of our weapons, that means they'll be able to strike deeper inside Russia. And Putin has said if they strike deeper inside of Russia, they will also strike deeper inside the Ukraine, and maybe even some other NATO, some countries in NATO will be attacked. I mean, this is textbook escalation, no solutions. You know, I'm asking myself this question every single day: where are the diplomats? Where are the people who want to make peace? Yes, some of them are very egotistical, like Henry Kissinger. Some of them want to be famous. I get it. But you know what? That's a decent price to pay if they really do want to try to make a big-time peace agreement.
Indeed.
And I think we can all agree, everyone watching, we don't know where the diplomats are. Where is today's Henry Kissinger? Where is today's big peacemaker? I don't see anybody on the stage. And that is probably the most troubling thing of all.
Mr. Novak, thank you so much, as always, for joining us with your insight. It's always a pleasure to have you on the show. As always, news and updates continue in a moment right here on NDTV. We're slipping into a very short break for now. Let's get you a quick update from Japan now. Well, the makeup of Japan's future government was in flux after voters punished Prime Minister Shigeru Ishiba's scandal-tainted coalition in a weekend snap election, leaving no party with a clear mandate to lead the world's fourth largest economy. In fact, the uncertainty sent the yen currency to a 3-month low as analysts prepared for days or possibly weeks of political wrangling to form a government and potentially a change of leader as well. We are hearing from local media that the vote on the next Prime Minister in Japan may be held on the 11th of November. So one can expect days, maybe weeks of political wrangling ahead. A crucial sports update now. Manchester City and Spain midfielder Rodri has won the men's Ballon d'Or, awarded to the best footballer of the year for the first time. The 28-year-old, who lost just one game last season for club and country, was awarded the prize in Paris after helping Spain win Euro 2024 in July. He also won the Premier League, the UEFA Super Cup and the Club World Cup with City. In other news, actor Timothée Chalamet surprised fans by attending his own lookalike contest in Lower Manhattan, and this event attracted hundreds of onlookers, triggered a police dispersal order, and resulted in at least one arrest. But accompanied by bodyguards, Chalamet briefly posed with contestants, but that is now viral. In other news, NASA astronaut Sunita Williams, who has been in space for nearly 5 months, extended her warmest wishes for Diwali to those celebrating in the United States and around the globe. In a video message shared from the International Space Station, the Indian origin astronaut said that this year she had the unique opportunity to observe Diwali from 260 miles above Earth and reminisced about her father's efforts to keep their cultural roots alive by teaching her and her family about Diwali and other Indian festivals. But notably, Sunita Williams, along with her fellow astronaut Butch Wilmore, have been at the ISS since June, and the pair had launched aboard Boeing Starliner spacecraft on the 5th of June, to be precise, for its first crewed flight, arriving at the space station on the 6th of June. But a decision was made to return Starliner to Earth without its crew, and the spacecraft successfully returned on 6th of September after NASA in August said that it was too risky to bring Wilmore and Miss Williams back to Earth. Listen in what she had to say.
Greetings from the International Space Station. I'm NASA astronaut Sunita Williams, and I want to extend my warmest wishes for a happy Diwali to everyone celebrating the Festival of Lights today at the White House and around the world. This year, I have the unique opportunity to celebrate Diwali from 260 miles above the Earth on the ISS. On this day, I specifically think about my father, who immigrated to the U.S. from India. He kept and shared his cultural roots by teaching us about Diwali and other Indian festivals.
Meanwhile, the grandest Diwali party in the world is the one in London or Trafalgar Square, argues London's Mayor Sadiq Khan, and more than 20,000 people have gathered in central London to ring in Diwali. With a dhol, dancing, all the tamasha and a grand exhibition of Indian culture, as NDTV's Radhika Iyer finds out for us. Take a look.
The city of London usually never pauses for anything, but when Indians decide to party, it must stop, take notice, and much of it even joins the party.
The biggest celebration of Diwali.
At London's iconic Trafalgar Square, Britain rang in Diwali with style. The sun was out and the music non-stop.
How young are you?
I'm 10.
10 years old.
10.
What's your name?
Dianshi.
Why would a 10-year-old who lives in London play dhol?
Because it's just fun and you like express your culture and it's really fun. Yeah.
And what's your culture in one word? What's Indian culture in one word?
Diverse.
Diverse.
Barfi, you can't beat barfi. Really important. And of course, my favorite is gulab jamun.
Best Bollywood moment for you. Why is Bollywood so special for you?
Oh, listen, the joy of Bollywood is the family comes together watching these movies.
Which one did you watch last?
I watched last one in the cinema was Pathan. I've got the same six-pack as Shah Rukh Khan, by the way.
23 years ago, two Gujarati community leaders, Nitin Palan and Sanjay Gadhvi, decided to showcase Diwali on Trafalgar Square as part of an organized event to offer a safe and a happy place to celebrate and share about India's culture. Today, it is one of the world's largest Diwali events, free to attend by all.
This man began Diwali on Trafalgar Square 23 years ago.
How are you?
Do you have a message?
Well, thank you so much for bringing all this here. Thanks for coming. Thank you. We say, I think, goodness is a message for everybody.
Yeah.
Godliness lies in goodness.
And this is good.
Well, I mean, the world needs more events that brings people together. There's too much that separates us. And when you do things like this, it takes the fear away. That there is commonality in love. Okay, and what's wrong with dancing? This is amazing.
Each year, the Diwali event has attracted over 20,000 people on the square. The food, music, costumes, all loved and admired. The event is a huge economic opportunity for the city to receive investment and attract spending on celebrating diversity. In no better place to do so than in London. Radhika Iyer from Trafalgar Square in London for NDTV.
Thank you for investing your time in watching this edition of The World 24/7. We'll keep tracking the latest updates for you as always. Do stay tuned.